Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Giant Zone, where we get together every week to talk about the New York Giants. Usually, every week we get together, we try to invite one of our fans or followers on the show with us to discuss the Giants, ask some questions, and give us your thoughts as well. You have your hosts here. You got Steve the Banker, and you've got myself, yours truly, Fly Guy Carl. And tonight we're joined by one of our followers, Rob. Rob, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So, Rob, why don't you tell everybody, give us a little bit of a history about yourself, how you became a Giants fan, so on and so forth, any traditions you have, anything you want to share?
First and foremost, thank you, Fly Guy and the Banker, for having me on. Yes, I grew up in Rahway, New Jersey. It's about a 30-minute train ride into Penn Station, Manhattan. I grew up in a very nitty-gritty area, very urban area, always played street football. As far back as I can remember, I've always watched the local TV and would always follow the Giants. For some reason, I stuck more to the Giants than the Jets. So I'm a Giants fan. And high school, I played football. And ever since then, I've just been a diehard New York Giants fan. I'm constantly checking all the platforms every day, even in the off seasons, keeping abreast of the New York Giants, the Twitter news and rumors and everything else that goes along with that.
And do you have any Giants related traditions or anything special you do on game day, Rob?
I actually do. On the mornings of game day, I wake up early, and like I'm doing now, I drink a nice, even though it's the evening, I make a nice hot cup of coffee. I break out my phone or laptop, depending on the day. I go through all the different platforms and try to stay current on all the latest breaking news up until game time. And even throughout game time, during the breaks, we'll check up on all the latest updates.
Good for you. Good for you. How have you liked the off season so far, Rob?
It's as exciting as I think it can be, given the fact that we don't have any cap space, given the fact that we're going through our third makeover, fourth makeover, and recent memory. I think it's been pretty exciting, and I like a lot of what the organization is doing.
I agree with you. And it's just, as we get closer to the draft, it's going to just continue to get more exciting. You're going to hear, there's going to be a lot of rumors. There might be some more moves. But would you agree that the energy just feels different, better?
I would definitely say the energy feels different. I feel like Joe Shane, John Mara, and Steve Dable are all in lockstep, even though they're all different parts of the organizational tree, even though they all play different roles. I feel like what they're saying and what they're doing, some fans are misinterpreting and taking some of the things out of context, I think, because we're just passionate Giants fans. But through their actions, I believe they're being very consistent, both in front of the media and behind closed doors. So I definitely like where we're headed.
I agree. I agree. So let's jump into this here, Rob, with you tonight. What are some questions you have for us here?
Yes. So Fly Guy and the Banker, here's my number one question. Every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we go out to all these different platforms. Is it Neil? Is it Icky? Is it this? Are we going to trade down to 5? Are we going to trade down to 7? Blah, blah, blah. We could talk about that until we're blue in the face. But what I want to know, I think where we make some money, it's a really good value, and where Shane is pretty renowned in his draft picking is through the earlier to later to the middle round. So I want to know what you think we should do with the second and the third round picks.
Steve, why don't you start with this one, Steve? Let's take it second round first, and then we can go into the third round from there. How's that?
100%. And Rob, what a great way to start off our podcast. Great question. Thank you as well. We appreciate you coming on. You've been a great supporter of us so far, and we don't take that for granted. We appreciate it. So here's what I was thinking. Every draft is different. We know that. What it looks like, the type of talent, is it top loaded? Is it quarterback heavy? We've talked about that in the past couple of podcasts. When you map it out, I think the best scenarios are when value equals need. So just a couple of thoughts to preface. I think Shane, Dable, their staff, the front office, the talent evaluators, I'm sure they're doing dress rehearsals. And if they haven't already, they're probably going to get close to doing that. leading up to how the first round, the second round, et cetera, is going to play out. I don't think it's just the people that do mock drafts that do that. I think the front offices of the best teams that do the best job of drafting do that. They have their board. It's probably different. 32 teams have 32 boards. They're all unique as to where they think players slot. As fans, I think the best we can do is mimic that process. So, for lack of a better word, have our own value board. For me to answer your question, I have to think, well, what happened in the first round? I know that wasn't your question, but I see the first round playing out in one of two ways. I think that we get a right tackle, and everybody's been debating about, is it going to be one of the 2 or 3 guys who drops to us at 5, and a cornerback, not QB, CB, cornerback. I personally love Sauce. I think Stingley is too risky right now. If we don't do that, I would love for us to trade down. If we don't pick up a right tackle or corner and we don't trade down, that means hopefully we get a right tackle, and instead of get a quarter, we get an edge in all likelihood. So for me, when I think of that, that sets up the second round. I also think about the second round and the third round when we get to that eventually, is where is the value positionally in this draft? From everything I've read, tape I've watched of some guys, obviously I'm not a draft expert. I haven't gone through the tape of 300 people. When I think of round 2, so to answer your question, I think the best value positionally will be offensive guard, edge. Edge is probably the deepest position in this draft, and corner. I think there might be some runs on those positions by the end of the first or early second. So look, we have the 4th pick in round 2, pick number 36. It's going to come up quick, which is cool. But what's even more cool than that, as you know, is we have a second pick in the, we have 2 picks in the third round. So, so the bottom line is round 2, 4th pick, 36. I think based upon what I just told you, I think there's a couple of guys that could drop because some quarterbacks go. I don't think the first round is worthy of 6 or 7 wide receivers, but I think it's possible at least 5 or 6 wide receivers will go in the first. I think there's a lot of wide receiver needy teams. So I think it's possible, like every draft we've seen, when we got Xavier McKinney in the past draft, he dropped into the second round. I think it's possible there's a couple of guys that'll drop into the second round. And here's who I'm thinking about. Zion Johnson's a first round talent. He's not the number 1 guard in the draft. Most people think the kid out of A&M is. I don't know. I just have this suspicion he could drop. Quay Walker is one of the top linebackers. He's not getting as much shine as the kid out of Utah, as the kid out of Georgia. His teammate at Georgia was getting. There's a couple other guys getting a little more shine. Quay Walker's phenomenal young talent. And Boye Mafe is my top. If he's a bottom half of the first round defensive end talent, 100%. But because of the teams in the first and who's picking and all the other types of players, he could fall into the top of the second. So we'll get to the third round in a minute. I know we will. But for me, round 2, pick number 4, 30, the 4th pick in the round 2, 36. I think there's other positions we need. We're not going to fill everything all at once. I think the most value is going to be guard, edge, and corner. And to me, it depends who falls. And I'd be happy with any of those 3 if the value is there.
Steve, this is why we're good friends, because we think alike. I have 3 players that I also highlighted for round 2. Zion Johnson was one of them.
Yeah, there you go.
In a minute. Boye Mafe was another one.
Yep.
But at the top of my list is, and I always struggle with the last name here, is Arnold Epiket. Oh, I can't say it. Out of Penn State, the edge rusher out of Penn State. I've been struggling with that last name since I've been watching him. But just some of the cliff notes that I've taken on all 3 of them, why I think they fit. As far as how do you say the last name? Because I want to say, is it Ebiketie? Ebiketie?
Yeah, it's the kid out of Penn State. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he was the 3rd highest pass rush win rate in the Big Ten, behind Hutchinson and Karlaftis. Okay. His first step, and I watched a lot of tape on him. His first step is very quick. He's got very fluid movement. His arm length is 34 1/8 inches, which is good for an edge rusher. The only thing that I was disappointed in was that he didn't run a 40 at the combine. But again, do I think he'll be able to handle a position? Absolutely right. Zion Johnson, what's there not to say? If you remember correctly, one of the last guards that we've taken in the second round where we had some success with Chris Snee. And, boy, if we can kind of get that production out of him in the second round, I'll drive him to the airport to make the pick. What I like about him, he's got some positional versatility as well. He's also played left tackle, and in the Senior Bowl, he also played center. So I like that you can kind of plug and play. He also reminds me a little bit of David Deal, believe it or not, because he's tough, but he's smart. He can play those positions. He's tough. But again, he's got the football smarts, which I like. And then Boye Mafe again, 4.5 in the 40. He hustles. A lot of the tape I watched, he made a lot of plays pursuing downfield. So he's very athletic. And he could play an outside linebacker in a 3-4, which Wink loves that. He had a great Senior Bowl, a great combine, and he's kind of got a little JPP to his game as well. So those are my picks for the second round, where I think we may be able to get some value. Rob, what are you looking at second round?
To the banker's point, those are all very good points. I think it definitely hinges upon what happens. I think it goes without saying what happens in the first round. I think we don't have to force. I think everybody's expecting us to do a trade down. I don't necessarily think that we have to trade down. I think we have an opportunity, especially with the way we see some of these. Every year, everybody goes into the quarterback frenzy. And we are in a great position where a lot of teams, the Seahawks, maybe the Steelers, are going to want to trade up and take one of our fives, and I think we could still potentially get one of our top graded offensive tackles. And like you're saying, to your point, the banker at value, I think we can get one of our top rated edges in the first and second. And then in the second round of pick number 36, like Joe Shane said today, we have so many different needs at every position that we can. I know it's business talk that we can take the best player available, but I wouldn't be opposed to them necessarily taking a linebacker.
In the second?
In the second round. I necessarily wouldn't be opposed to them taking a linebacker in the second round.
That's why I had Quay Walker. I think there's like a group of 3-4 guys that may drop, and he was the one that I thought maybe has the best chance to drop. I don't think linebacker is where the value is unless one of those top guys drop there. Yeah, that would be fascinating if we end up getting a linebacker there, man.
And I only say that because this is a very deep tackle class, and I don't think we necessarily have to reach up for an lineman that we don't think that we have graded as one of our studs, because there are a lot of people that we could get in the later rounds. And I think that Joe Shane is very adept at finding those value picks in the 5th or 6th rounds. I know we don't have a 7th round pick this year. So there is a very deep tackle class. In addition to all the signings that we have made, I don't necessarily think we have to go all out on the offensive line this year. I know that's not a popular view, but he definitely has to take a bookend tackle.
Rob, let me ask you a question to follow up, Carl, if that's okay.
Sure.
I want to probe a little deeper into what Rob just said. Rob, I'm not going to let you off on that.
No, good.
So it's not just you. I've been hearing a lot of people say, well, it's a deep draft at tackle too. We can get a tackle in the 2nd, the 3rd. Here's the difference. And this is the facts. I mean, you could research it. You can look it up. I've done, Carl knows me how, detail oriented I am. I've done my research. The difference between an offensive tackle, even a guard. I mean, we see guards selected in forget 2nd, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. David Deal was a mid-round tackle pick, but we played him at guard. He played every spot in the line except center.
Right.
And he didn't come in his rookie year and wasn't like, so where I'm going with this is the reason tackles in the first round are important, and they usually go depending upon value and skill and where they are in the first, is that's a guy you can, in theory, plug and play.
Absolutely.
But there's very few Slaters from last year out of Northwestern that came in and played. Most of those guys that come in, play, and are great from their first game are taken in the top 5 or top 10. Most tackles in the first round are like Andrew Thomas. It takes them half a season because tackle play is not what it was in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s. The tackles come in very less experienced. It's just hard for them. It's not like a wide receiver like Darius Slayton who came in the 5th round. And there's a question here. So when we think of Darius Slayton, he came in, he was a 5th round pick. He had his best season of his career in his rookie year. You can be a receiver and do that. You're not going to find a tackle, in my humble opinion, in the 3rd, but definitely not 4th or 5th, who's going to come in, rookie year, start, and be great from their first game. You're lucky if by the end of the year they're still a great tackle. It took Andrew Thomas till towards the end of his rookie year to finally figure it. So my question to you is, if we don't get a tackle with one of our first 2 picks, and if we don't trade down, because there's going to be, Penning is going to be there, picks 15, 16, 17. There's going to be some tackles, in the bottom half of the first. If we miss out on a tackle in the first round, the likelihood, unlike almost all other positions, except maybe corner, the likelihood is that when we get another tackle, as you're saying, they're probably not going to be someone who's going to compete for a starting job. And if they do get a starting job, don't expect them to protect Daniel very well. You're okay with that? You're okay with us not getting a tackle at the 5th or 7th pick?
If that's what I said, then I totally apologize. I don't think I said that. I thought I said I would definitely like to get a tackle at 5 or 7. But if we do trade down one of those, it depends on who's available. And so
Gotcha.
as far as the 2nd round goes, I would definitely like to look at a linebacker position. But no, to your point, with what Mara has said, with what Dable has said, with what Shane has said, he's going in on Barkley. He's going in on DJ. He has addressed the offensive line position with all these veteran 1-year deals. He's addressed it with, Andrew Thomas is our bookend left end tackle as long as he stays healthy, right? We will definitely take a tackle. There's no question about it. Right. You have to take a tackle. You have to. Because if we put this off, we can't be in rebuild mode forever. How much longer can we play this in 3 years? That's what Dave Gettleman said. I love the guy. Maybe not everyone's crazy about him, but I like Dave Gettleman, all right? He said maybe in 3 years, we'll see. We'll know what kind of team we have. But between when you say that in 3 years, you still got to deal with tomorrow. And it led to, I thought, not the best signings. And it led to a very cap unfriendly situation. So we have to address the tackle this year, put it to sleep, move on.
We're on the same page. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I agree. And, and this kind of leads, so let's go 3rd round because you guys both touched on some things here. So to get to your other half of your question, the 3rd round. The 3rd round is where I looked at linebacker, and I also looked at wide receiver, believe it or not. So I've got 4 prospects that I'm looking at in the 3rd round. And to start, I've got a linebacker, Chad Muma out of Wyoming.
Yeah.
He's an athletic 3-down linebacker. He reads plays quickly and he gets to his spots before the blockers get to him. He ran a 4.6 40 for a linebacker. That's pretty good. He doesn't miss tackles. He averaged 11 tackles per game last year. Wink prioritizes speed and sideline to sideline coverage. So I just, in reading the tea leaves here, I think he's a Wink type player. And again, he's got the sideline range. I think he replaces Tay Crowder, put him back there with Blake Martinez, and I'm a very happy man. And you know who he reminds me a lot of is Patrick Queen, the linebacker at LSU.
Yeah.
And now plays for Baltimore. And I love the guy. I followed him in college. I think he's great. I think he'd be a perfect fit in round 3 for Wink's defense. I also looked at Alec Pierce, wide receiver at Cincinnati. And what was it? Last week, wasn't Shane at the Cincinnati Pro Day? And everybody was saying, all right, well, they're gonna draft Sauce. Okay, I'm sure he was looking at Sauce. I would not be surprised if he was looking at this kid as well. He had 52 catches last year, 884 yards. He's 6'3", 211 pounds, ran a 4.40. He's got very good hands. He doesn't drop many balls, and he fights for catches, which I like. He's very good at finding opening in zones. He reminds me a little bit of, believe it or not, of Hakeem Nicks, where he uses his body to ward off defenders. He's kind of like a Cooper Kupp because he finds those spots in the zones. He could probably make a lot of downfield plays, up the middle as well. So just someone I've got my eye on, and if they want to go that way, maybe he's their 3rd round. Tight end, Jeremy Ruckett.
Love him.
Look, I don't, everybody knows about him. Look, his numbers were low last year playing behind Olave and Wilson in that offense. But you put him in an offense where he can just be him. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a huge target. He's from Long Island. He's a Giants guy. He had a minor foot injury, so he didn't run the 40 at the combine. But you know who he reminds me of? Jake Ballard. And you know what? Jake Ballard, he wasn't flashy. He wasn't the name. But boy, he caught everything. He was so dependable. And then the last guy that I've got for the 3rd round, then I'll turn this over, is Kyron Williams, running back out of Notre Dame. He had over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns last year. He's a very good route runner. What I like about him, even though he's short, he's very good at pass protection. He's not afraid to stick his head in there and pick up that blitz. He ran a 4.640, so he's not fast, but he's quick to the hole, and he's shifty. So kind of like a Kadarius Toney, but a running back. So those are just some guys that I looked at, maybe 3rd round targets. Steve, what do you got?
I didn't list any players because there are just so many, and I love your thoughts on my biggest concern is guys like Chad Muma and some of the other guys you mentioned. I don't know that they'll be there. Maybe they'll drop to the top of the 3rd, but they could be gone. But that's what I did in the 2nd. Who are some surprises that could drop? And I love but again, like you said, great minds. Going back to what I did in the 2nd round, I feel that there's going to be 3 positions of value in the 3rd. And quite frankly, if there's not a run in the 2nd, there's probably going to be a run on these positions as well. Tight end, linebacker, as you said, and wide receiver. I think there'll be a run on wide receiver, probably in the bottom half of the 1st. But then there's like a whole nother group of guys, like guys who are going to play in the NFL. They're going to be a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver, and they're going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. So I think there's going to be tremendous value. And like I said before, there's going to be players at guard, edge, and corner that may fall out of the 2nd. Maybe we can snag them in the 3rd. So we have the 3rd pick in the 3rd round, pick number 67. And then we have the 17th pick in the 3rd round, which is pick number 81. I mean, it's about the only good thing that Gettleman did is he left us with 5 picks in the top 100.
Trader Dave. Yeah, at least he had a heck of a draft last year. Can't take that away from Trader Dave.
If I had to do it all over again, I love Kadarius Toney. I mean, we're getting off topic here. I've been telling everybody when he was drafted, we watched him here at University of Florida. I was like, I'm telling you, he is electric. He's a joystick. We got yelled on another podcast about it. Oh, yeah. But I'm like, guys, I'm telling you. Now, to be fair, he hasn't stayed healthy. And that's okay. That's a fair criticism. But you don't see guys like him. But we need another wide receiver, I think. So anyway, but I guess the point I was making is if I had to do it all over again, though, I wouldn't take Toney and I wouldn't have traded down. I would have taken Slater because the kid was a Pro Bowler from day one. And you know what, we wouldn't have the issue we have today with our offensive line. So, and it goes back to what I said in the last segment about offensive tackles, and they don't fall off trees, not the ones that can step in day one and be a Pro Bowl caliber player or just a good starter. I remember a number of years ago, I wanted Jack Conklin. Tennessee ended up jumping and taking him. And I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, know what? He made a Pro Bowl his first year, his rookie year. You can't pass on guys like that. So anyway, that's what I think is going to happen in the third round. Rob, what do you think?
As Giants fans, it's been such a gaping wound the past 10 years of all of the missed opportunities that we've had throughout free agency and the opportunities that we've had throughout the draft. So to kind of go back to what you guys were saying earlier, I feel like the energy is much different this year. Shane isn't doing the flashy splash, news-making signings. He's doing what needs to be done. He's got no money. He's doing smart deals. He's addressing the offensive line. And he is not the type of GM who's going to pass on a blue chip player. If Neil or Equanimo or anybody else like that is there at 5, he's taking them. I think he just will not pass on them. So I think he's not going to pass up players like Slater or Conklin, like you mentioned, like we've passed on in the past or had opportunities to pick. So I'm feeling really good about where we're headed with this year's draft.
The year, Steve, that you wanted Conklin and we didn't get him. If you remember how that draft played out, do you remember who we got stuck with?
Well, I remember then there was the edge that we wanted, and he went to the Bears.
And we wound up with Eli Apple.
Yes, we did.
And Rob, to your point, he's not making the splashy sign. Now, he doesn't have the money to. I get that. His picks, you know what? The word that comes to mind with the way he's approaching free agency is strategic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impulsive. It's not, hey, look, we got to pick somebody to save our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
A la Kenny Galladay. All right. You could just see that there's a plan in place and they're developing the plan and they're putting pen to paper. So, to the point you made, the energy feels right. It just feels like we're going in the right direction. And I know we'll get to this later on, but we just need to be patient with these guys. It's nice to finally feel like there's a plan again. And we got to give them that time to implement the plan and get the roster that they need for this plan and put these systems in place. That'll translate to wins, in my opinion. What else do you have for us, Rob? What other questions do you have?
All right. I know this is kind of one that's been coming up recently because I wouldn't say that Mara and everybody's doubling down on Daniel Jones. I think they've been very consistent. He said from the very beginning, Mara, he said, I didn't put him in a position to succeed. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do everything we can. And he's been very consistent in that. And so my question to you is, as great as that is, what must Daniel Jones do to stay in a New York Giants uniform past 2023?
That's a great question. Steve, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I could take it. He's got to do 3 things. Number 1, he's got to be healthy. Number 2, he's got to learn to go through his progressions. I was a roller coaster with Daniel Jones so far since he's come into the league. His rookie year, oh my God, he's like unbelievable, the way he could throw the deep ball. It doesn't matter which year we look at, even his best year when he first came on the scene as a rookie, and he had some turnovers, but his number one issue, if you listen to any expert, will tell you, and it doesn't matter, like expert, all of us see it with our own eyes. He doesn't go through his progressions. He just doesn't. Now, people have said, well, neither would you if you had that offensive line. Okay, that's fair, but so I think there's hope, but that's been a criticism going back since college. That's the facts. So that's number 2. And then number 3, adapt. Trust and adapt. Now, this is going to be tough. I think what he has going for him, and what I mean by this third point is He went to Duke. We've heard him talk. He does the Eli thing. You know he's got a personality more than he should. He's a smart kid. He's going to need every ounce of that, because the reason quarterbacks are normally given 3 years is it takes time to adjust to the speed of the game, but it also takes time for that playbook to come second nature, for what you're reading of the defense to become second nature and to form those bonds with your offensive teammates. He doesn't have 3 years. This is now like he's a rookie all over again, if we're being honest. So to be able to keep up with whatever they're going to throw at him, to trust that new coaching staff to implement the system, hopefully, and I think we all are very optimistic because of Dable, because of Kafka and what they bring to the table, that yes, they're fixing off this offensive line. It's not going to be great from the beginning, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than it was, is what we can see. So assuming he has the time, they're going to open some holes, some basic, decent holes for our running game that weren't even there before, for him to trust and hopefully get back to that RPO that he was doing, right? And better deep route concepts, but not turn the ball over carelessly, to continue the trend that he showed under the prior regime of fixing that problem. So that third one, I mean, that's a lot. I don't know if he can do it. I don't know that there's anybody that can say, no matter how much people love Daniel Jones and we love Danny Dimes, that third one's going to be the toughest. Staying healthy should be a little bit easier with a better line, and maybe they're, to use a word that Carl used earlier about a different topic, a little more strategic about when he runs and how he runs. But learning to go through those progressions and just trusting the staff, it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. And I can't say that I have a tremendous amount of confidence. I want to, but man, I don't know.
So I agree. First and foremost, he needs to stay healthy. It all starts there. And I don't even need to expound on that. It is what it is. He's got to stay on the field. He's got to prove he can do it for 16 games. All right. I think he needs to, Steve, to your point, he needs to go through his progressions. And, I was at his first game when he first became starter, that game in Tampa.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
I was at that game, and I walked out of there saying, boy, we've got our franchise quarterback. He checked all the boxes. He needs to get back to that. Okay. Maybe I give him a little bit more benefit of the doubt than other people, where I place a lot of the blame on the offensive line. I do. Steve, you said it very well. Well, it could be the offensive line. I think it was totally the offensive line. As the lines got worse, I think he took on the persona, well, I've got to do more, number one. So I think he forced a lot of balls, trying to make plays, hence probably ran a little bit more than he should have, trying to make plays. But, we've touched on this with Saquon. When you're constantly under pressure, it gets in your head. And I just think that he's had the mindset where, man, I got to get rid of this ball fast. I don't have time to look at, option 2, 3, or 4, because I'm not going to have time. So I think he needs to get back to the basics, and he also needs to show more command to this offense. He needs to show that he can move this ball consistently, make the right reads, and manage this offense. Look, I don't expect him to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, even in the NFC. I don't, at least not this year. But you know what? If you show me these things that, you can hang in there, you're going to let the play develop. Of course, again, they've got to give him more time. And maybe with a new offensive-minded coach, maybe they move the pocket a little bit more to help give him more time. Maybe they roll him out a little bit more instead of letting him just stand there and get killed. Maybe you do a little bit more shotgun. I think they're going to get a little creative. And I go back to what Brian Daboll said in his interview, where I'm going to build a system around the player's strengths. Not, hey, this is our system and I'm throwing you in it.
Mhm.
All right. And there was rumors out there that halfway through the season, some of the players were still trying to figure out Jason Garrett's offense last year. So, maybe am I making excuses? Maybe, but I just expect different from this coaching staff. And hence, I think that's going to reflect in improved play from Daniel Jones. That's my thinking. Rob?
So I think he's going to do well this year. What do I think? I know it's a bold statement, but I think the Giants overall, in order for him to make it another year, the Giants have to at least be in contention for the wild card.
Ooh.
Anything less, I know it's bold. I know they did it year one under Judge. They were in contention, right? I think he is in the perfect position right now. He's getting all the reinforcements he needs on the offensive line. We're going to draft some offensive line. He's got tools to work with. And Daboll's style is very indicative of his personality. Look at the staff that he brought on. A lot of people he's never worked with before, all different kinds of backgrounds. He's an innovator. And I like what you said earlier. He goes to all these different players and says, show me some of the things that you like to run in college. And he builds to the player's strengths. And he needs to do what he did in year one with Sherbert. He needs to air out. He needs to go vertical. And I believe he can do that this year. So I am cautiously optimistic that he's going to at least earn a franchise tag at the least.
Would you guys?
I'm going to go bold. I'm a bold guy like that. I'm going to say he's going to have a good year.
I respect that. Aim high. Would you guys both say that with the moves that Shane has already made this offseason, that our offensive line is already better than what he had in front of him last year?
Well, the PFF scores already say that with all the players that have come in already. They've already had PFF scores higher than Hernandez and the other players that they had last year. So from an intellectual standpoint, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Contractually, there's no doubt about it because they're all one-year prove-it deals.
Well, money aside, I'm just talking talent.
100%.
Steve?
Yeah, Glowinski's he's on a 3-year deal. He was the
Right.
best offensive lineman in Indianapolis once Quentin Nelson went down. He's a beast. He's already a better run blocker than every guard we had on the roster healthy last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we have two reliable starters in Glowinski and Andrew Thomas. And then it's just a question of, is Shane Lemieux going to get healthy? Well, that's the nice thing about this Max Garcia signing in the last 24 hours is, okay, now we got a guy who's played over 50 games. He's played some of his career at a very high level, actually. He's not all pro, but he's a very good player. He's very aggressive in pass protection. He's not top tier in pass protection, but very efficient. He's a good run blocker. And he's immediately better at picking up stunts than any guard we had on the roster last year. So, and he may not even start depending upon if we draft somebody. So we're adding depth, we're adding competition, and we're adding high caliber, high quality players who've played in this league, who've been successful on the offensive line. There's nobody that he signed that's going to be like whiffing like Billy Price did or Matt Pert. These aren't guys that it's immediately going to be an upgrade because these are guys that you're never going to see them whiffing. Like that's not the caliber of player these guys are. Gono, the tackle that we signed, he's got a ton of upside. We talked about him 2 episodes ago. Athletic. He's hopefully our swing tackle. Hopefully we get our right tackle. So anyway, I'm getting off topic, but I think the offensive line is a work in progress, but it's already light years ahead of where it was.
A lot of veterans this year, a lot of rookies last year. Absolutely.
Here's the difference already that you're seeing with the offensive line as opposed to last year and probably like the last 2-3 years. It's quality depth.
Or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, think about it. Look, I agree that we're going to draft our right tackle, and I'm sticking to my guns. I'm still saying it's going to be Evan Neal.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
I hope you're right.
I'll die on that hill. But you know, and look, we've got our center, hopefully, Feliciano, if he stays healthy. All right. And again, they know what they got in this guy because he played in Buffalo. So he played under these guys. They would not have brought him in if they didn't think he could help.
And by the way, Garcia's played center as well. So you got flexibility with those two guys.
Exactly.
Let them battle it out.
Exactly right.
Because Nick Gates may not come back till the end of the season or the following season for all we know.
Terrible. He's right. And like you're saying, the banker, it's a lot of competition this year. Yeah. There's nobody just walking in and they're just by default because of injury or whatever, taking the position. There's competition at every position. And I just want to clarify real quick my Daniel Jones comment. Just because we got Tyrod Taylor doesn't mean that he's on the cusp of being overthrown. No, Daniel Jones is innately a hard worker. He's the first guy to show up, the last guy to leave. So he's doing everything that he could possibly do. No, I don't think the Giants should give him his guaranteed money by May 2nd. I think he should have to earn that money. I don't think by any means they should pick up his options, 5th-year option in May. However, I think he's going to have a solid year. I'm going to go in the DJ cap this year. I really think he's going to show, especially because of the way Dable's going to play to his strengths. I think he's going to light it up this year.
Rob, I'll tell you what I think you may be onto, and here's what to me success will look like if you're right. I think they're going to do an install of the playbook in the preseason. They're going to get a little bit more time with their team because they're new staff. The NFL rules allow them to have a little bit more time with the team. And they're going to slide into that playbook. They're going to say, here's what we can install. Here's how we can win games. Here's some bells and whistles we can add. I think they're going to focus on how do we make his life easy? How do we get him easy completions, but not the 3-yard dink and dunk and dump like Garrett had.
Right.
I think they're going to do wheel routes. They're going to do sweeps. They're going to do, and they're getting the type of offensive lineman, to your point, that can operate under those schemes. I think if he is successful, what success looks like, a lot of people often say, well, what does success look like? I think the first 4 games, 5 games, 6 games will be establishing the run. They'll make some deep throws because you have to pressure the defense to open things up in the middle. I think they're going to be creative with Kafka and Dable. I think it's going to be fun to watch, but I don't know that he's going to have any 400-yard game. I mean, it's going to be little by little, and then they're going to build on top of it and build because it's going to be new for him, probably. I don't know that any of the terminology he's ever heard of. I don't know enough about that to know if any of the terminology he's ever seen before. But I think it's going to be fun in the back half of the year, and I hope you're right. I think all the fans hope you're right. Most fans hope you're right. Most fans, no matter how much they criticize DJ, we want to win. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
You guys have time for one last question?
Yeah, I want to just close on Daniel Jones for a minute. There's 2 things. I think the word that comes to mind for me with Daniel Jones is comfort. I think they're going to make this so the transition into this system, he can, I went off track, but I think they want to make him comfortable in this system, in this offense. I think there's going to be vertical passing. There's going to be downfield passing. But they're going to make it comfortable for him. And that goes into designing it around his strengths. But boy, when you talk about Daniel Jones, he's got a little bit of that Eli Manning demeanor. He doesn't say the wrong thing. He's a quiet leader. He's not a bad face of the franchise. He's really not. And look, if he's successful, and I think a lot of people miss this, but if he's successful, that means the team is successful. So I hope he's successful. Again, do I expect 4,000 yards? I would take it a minute. Just show me that you can move the ball, that you got command of this offense, and that, you know what, you're not forcing things, that you're comfortable, and show me that this is all coming together and we are on the right track.
Carl, you know what you're getting at, and he did it his rookie year under Shermer.
Mhm.
He needs confidence.
Yes. Thank you. You're exactly right.
Confidence.
I couldn't come up with the word, Steve, but that's the word I was looking for before. You're exactly right.
No more of these 15 play drives. I think confidence comes from, he's the most accurate deep ball passer last year in the NFL. That's a fact of statistics. Now, he didn't throw the ball enough. That's the problem. But he can throw a beautiful touch on those 20-yard and deeper route concepts.
Yep.
The
kid just needs his confidence back. You know,
I think he's been restricted. I agree. In the scheme, he's been restricted.
Yeah.
We need to, and that's what I like, playing to the strengths, being like you're saying, Fly Guy, nice and relaxed in a system that you feel comfortable with. It's not all on you. We have 11 personnel sets. We have offensive tackles who can catch. We have, all different kinds of exotic plays that Daboll's going to install. And I'm excited. So I think all the pressure is not on him. It's not predictable.
Put some guys in motion. Get
Yes,
Tony,
a lot of motion.
Get Kadarius Toney, a healthy Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
He doesn't have three guys immediately collapsing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this offense, Saquon, put Saquon out in the front.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right. And again, and that's what we're talking about. They're going to build this offense, move the pocket. They're going to do things to open up this offense. Hence, give him more time.
Electric guys. You just said Saquon and Kadarius Toney, two of the most electric guys.
And we're
Kenny
not even
Galladay,
talking about,
throw the ball to him.
and then that opens up for Kenny Galladay.
Yes.
Yes, throw the ball.
Yes. Or the new tight end that we draft.
Yes. The guy from Washington.
What else do you have? You wanted to ask another question, Rob?
Yeah, I do. And this is going to be a bold one, and we're recording this, so we're going to come back and revisit this at the end of next year. So
Hot take,
either
baby.
you're going to
Hot
look like a
take.
genius, or we'll see. What do you
take.
think our regular season record will be at the end of this 2022-2003? And on top of that, I know it's kind of two questions in one, but what is the least amount of wins that will be acceptable to our fan base? It's kind of a 2-in-1, but what do you think we will realistically be our record? And then, but what do you think will be acceptable to the fans?
All right.
To consider this year a quote unquote improvement.
Wins, I'll say, look, given where we've come from, anywhere between 6 and 8 to me is successful and improvement. And I was going to say 7, but I'll stretch it to 8. I'm my confidence is building with all the moves that these guys make, and the more we dive into this. So minimum, okay. And what was the other question, Rob? I apologize.
So you think 6 to 8 is what we will have? That will be our record. 8 wins in the new 18-game season or schedule. What will be an acceptable amount of wins to our fan base? What will the fans look back and say, you know what? Maybe they didn't make the playoffs, but I'm good with this because this shows we're moving in the right direction, considering the fact we didn't have any money and yada, yada.
Look, here, I hate to do this, and I know, Steve, you get pissed off when people do this, but
No.
I'm not going to answer that, Rob, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I put that out there in a question once, and I've seen people 8 wins, 10 wins, division. Look, and I'm going to go back to something that I've been saying all off season. 2022 is not going to be about wins and losses. 2022 is going to be about rebuilding the foundation, putting the roster together to bring in the right people to run the system they want to run. So, and then getting these people comfortable in the system. So that's why I say, okay, you do all that, maybe halfway through the season, it starts to click. That's why I think 6 to 8 wins. Okay. I will look at wins and losses in 2023 and beyond. That's when I think you're going to see the wins coming. That's when I think you're going to start talking playoff football. look, they may catch fire with these guys. There's a sneaky side of me that says, don't be surprised if, but I don't say that with a lot of confidence yet. So I'm going to say 6 to 8 wins is successful this year. Rebuild the foundation, put the roster together, get these guys comfortable in this system, let them get a year under their belt, and then we start competing in 2023. Steve?
Man, it's a 17-game season now. They played over the course of 18 weeks. So that's an extra game.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, so I'll answer this 2 ways. The first half of my answer is just an honest response to your honest question, which is a numbers-based question. Because I think there's a subjective side to what fans are looking for as well. I think objectively, numerically, in the past, I would have said 6, but now 7 games is okay if we're seeing tremendous progress. I think 8 wins is good and 9 is phenomenal. Now, mind you, do the math. 9 and 8 is phenomenal, and we still may not make the playoffs. I mean, because it's a 17-game season. So what has to go right for those things to happen? Listen, healthy, not just DJ, who we talked about earlier, but even the offensive line has to stay healthy. But here's the problem. Even if the offensive line is healthy, offensive lines usually don't function at a high level until they've been playing together for 2 or 3 seasons. So even if we get a bunch of chess pieces that we can put in there and they're like, oh my God, these guys are so much better than the past teams, it's going to take them 4, 5, 6 games just to play together fluidly. They're not going to intuitively just know what the guy next to him is doing without, a little bit of communication. They're not going to be like our 2011 or 2007 Super Bowl team or the Super Bowl teams of the past. Like, they're not going to have that yet. So there has to be a lot of luck too, I think, and health, which, listen, we play on the worst turf in the league. Guys get injured. It's tough, right? So that's the empirical answer. I think 9 wins would be unbelievable, and we still may not make the playoffs, even if we win 9 games. I think 6 at a minimum. Listen, our team's lost 4, 6. Our team has won 4 games, 6, 4, 5, 3. 2016 was an anomaly. We all know what happened that year with all the free agents. We won 11 games. And then before that, 6 games, 6 wins, 7 wins. The problem is if we only win 6 games, even 7, that's still a really long season. So the other half of my answer to you, Rob, is I think there's 4 things that are going to measure success for the fans. Or at least I'm speaking for myself. Are we going to increase the amount of points scored? Right? My God, with a better offensive line, even if it just moves up from being the worst in football to middle of the pack, and the genius of Daboll and hopefully Kafka and what they bring, you have a proper scheme, some new players, some healthy guys who were injured most of last year, points scored. Fans want something to cheer about. They want excitement. Number 2, turnovers. We haven't even talked about Wink's defense. Pressure the quarterback leads to turnovers, human error. That leads to excitement, more opportunities to score. But as Tom Coughlin used to say, I said this last week, you win the turnover battle, you at least give yourself a chance more likely to win the game. Number 3, offensive line rebuild. We've been talking about that. If we see progress from the offensive line, and then that's a segue to my 4th thing that I think we as fans, regardless of how many wins we have, we're going to want to see, which is we want to see the arrow going up on the developing impact players. Right now, and this is where I'll finish, I feel we have 2 impact players on the whole team. And some people would say Andrew Thomas is not an impact player because he doesn't score touchdowns, although he did score 1 touchdown. But he's not what you normally don't think of offensive linemen as impact. Kadarius Toney, I would argue, is an impact player, but other than that, it's Xavier McKinney. Yep. Those are the only 3 untouchables, literally, on this entire team. Maybe if Nick Gates was like healthy and had a almost Pro Bowl year last year, we would have included him. But like, we got 3 kids. That's it. There's like 3 quasi untouchables. Let's see that arrow go up. Yep. Let's see points scored. Let's see a better defense, exciting turnovers, giving us let's see that offensive line show progress and being rebuilt. So going into, and then let's see more impact players, guys that you want to buy their jersey, guys that you know are going to have an impact on the game. So I think your answer deserves a number of wins. And 6 or 7, I'm still not going to be super excited. But I think if we see those other 4 things,
Right.
that's something to get excited about.
Right. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I'll tell you what, it really can't be any worse than last year. I am a part of the New York Giants fan base. I stopped watching the games. I don't know at what point last year, but I just couldn't watch them. It was just too unbearable. As much as I bleed blue, it's too unbearable. To your point, I'm going to gamble, and I'm going to say that we're going to have about 9 or 10 wins, and we're going to make the wild card this year. Oof. What? You're saying this? What? Huh? Yeah, I'm going to be that guy right now in March, and I'm going to take a big gamble and say, we're going to throw the whole NFC least by storm. It's going to come together with this new, fresh leadership. Everybody from top to bottom is really all in on Daniel Jones, and it's seeping through all facets of the organization, and it's not all on him. We're going to draft the right people. We've already got some good veteran signings, so I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say we're going to have 9 or 10 wins and make the wild card. Will we get past the first round? No, I don't think so. That will be a bonus, but I think we'll make the wild card. So I'll be the wild guy.
Rob, I'm not the most spiritual man. I'm not the most religious man in the world. I'm a little bit spiritual, but can I just say from your lips to God's ears?
Oof. But Rob, like you said, we've got this on tape.
You got it on tape. I'm saying with the utmost confidence.
I love it. I love it. Man it up.
You were saying, Steve, 8 wins, 9 wins. And you're right. Maybe that doesn't win us the division, but you know what? That puts us in the wild card talk.
Let's talk about the division, guys. Can you talk about the division?
Sure.
Because we got some tough games next year, and then we have some potential lollipops. Like we do play Seattle. The Jaguars ain't a lollipop anymore. I mean, they got Trevor Lawrence. They've really improved that team, and I think they actually got a coach now.
Yeah.
So when you look at the outside of division, outside of conference games we're playing, there's some winnable and a lot that are not. There's some teams that are probably going to whoop on us. But, and then as they say, any given Sunday, that's why you play the game. But let's talk about, if I can, Dallas, I think, has gotten worse.
Yes.
100%.
Washington, I still wish we had that guy as a head coach. I mean,
who's your quarterback? That's my rhetorical question.
But they're dysfunctional, And then Philadelphia, I don't feel they've gotten better. I don't know. Like, it's a weird division. So what do you guys? So Rob, let me throw it to you first, and then Carl, I want to throw it to you. Like, what do you think about the division and those 3 teams? And should it be easier this year? Like, what do you think are? Because that's 6 games right there.
So it seems like for during the past few years, we say this about the Cowboys every offseason. And then somehow during the regular season, they have a way of pulling it together and then not doing well in the playoffs or making, whatever the situation may be. Amari Cooper's gone.
Yes.
Zeke is not the guy he used to be. I mean, our defense is getting better. Who are we worried about in Dallas, really? Who is the threat in Dallas? I'm just going to rhetorical question here. Washington, who's their quarterback?
Carson Wentz.
Right. I'm just saying, like, who is their quarterback? I don't think he's the guy. I know he's a veteran. He's shown some consistency when he's been healthy. I don't think he's the guy. I think they're just soul searching. They've been soul searching for a very long time for a quarterback. And the Eagles have just been in a rut. They draft these quality players, and you just think, wow, maybe this is going to be the year the Eagles, maybe they're going to tip the scales a little bit, and I just don't see it. So that's why I still think it's going to be between the Giants and the Cowboys in the NFC East.
So I think we have a chance of taking one against Dallas this year. I agree that they've taken a step back.
Yeah.
And I think the word that comes to mind for me with the Giants is momentum. We're building momentum, and it's only the offseason, which means a different mindset. And instead of that defeatist mindset where they're just going through the motions and this is bad, it's going to be different. So I think we have a shot at splitting against Dallas. I'll be generous and say we split against Washington, although I think we can sweep Washington. The Eagles, to me, are the dark horse. Those 3 number 1 picks. And, say what you want, but that front office has a way of finding good players.
They're not going to make all 3.
All right, but still, the point is they've got ammunition to make improvements.
Oh, 100%. But they're going to trade, is what I'm saying.
So
that's what the Eagles do. They trade up and down.
And I think we're on the same page when we say that there's a move coming for Philadelphia.
Really? What do you think?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I think they're going to upgrade a quarterback. How they do it, I don't know. But I think yes, I do. I don't think they want to go through another year of Jalen Hurts. I don't.
But you think this is the year to do it, or you think they, like 15 other teams in the league, are saying, well, let's just wait for next year, which is the problem with us waiting for next year, because there's like 15 teams saying the same thing. And there's not 15 quarterbacks.
Would you be surprised to see them make a move for Malik Willis?
100%. I would personally be surprised.
I would not. Look, again.
That's a bold statement. I respect it. I just personally, I don't think they would with Hurts.
Okay, so let's say a quarterback. So maybe, all right, maybe they don't want to draft a quarterback. Garoppolo, maybe. I don't think it's going to be Baker Mayfield. I just think there's a move coming there. I don't think they're fully sold on Jalen Hurts. I don't. All right. Okay. That's the team that I've got my eye on in the division. Look, Dallas, say what you want, but Dallas is Dallas. And you know what kills me about when we play Dallas? That they're not always better than us, but we beat ourselves against that team. We get so fired up that we get stupid. And so that's why I'm kind of tempering my enthusiasm and say I think we can get 1. I don't think we can take 2 from Dallas. Going down there is just like a house of horrors for us, but I think we can take 1 against Dallas. Right now, if I had to say, I think we can take 1 from Philadelphia as the way the teams are constructed right now. But I'm telling you, with the ammunition they have, whether it's 3 first-round picks or if they're going to make a move to upgrade somewhere, that's the team that I'm watching in the division this year.
They got that offensive line, man.
Ooh, they do. They do.
They re-signed Kelsey, the center. They got some beasts on that offensive line.
And their defense is always strong.
Yeah, they're stout.
So again, with what they can do, that's the team that concerns me most in that division this year is the Eagles.
They have a tight end.
I hate them, but yeah.
Their problem is their quarterback play.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they finally have a number 1 wide receiver. They have a Goddard, who's a very good receiving tight end.
Yep.
Had a couple drops against the Giants last year, which is unusual for him. But that offensive line, man, keeps him in the game. It's just that quarterback. Gotta love him.
Yeah. So, that's why what you just said, Steve. That's why I would not be surprised if they make a move at quarterback. I don't know what the move is.
Didn't McKinney have 2 picks against him last year?
I'm sorry?
In one of those games with Philly, didn't McKinney have 2 picks against Hurts?
Was it the Eagle game? Maybe.
No, in the end zone, wasn't it our slot corner? What's his name? The kid out of UCLA.
Darnay Holmes.
Darnay Holmes.
No, Darnay Holmes.
Okay.
Wasn't it Darnay Holmes in the end zone who intercepted him? And then
or was it? Maybe it was Bradbury who had 200. I got to go look this up. There was somebody who had 2 interceptions against Hurts. It was the same player.
So you just said Bradbury. I know we're running against the clock here soon.
All right.
What do you guys think of Bradbury's situation? We've talked about it recently, but it's been another week now.
My personal opinion. No, go ahead.
Rob. Go ahead, Rob. I got some thoughts, but I've discussed it already. I want to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. My thought is Joe Shane is doing the right thing. He's showing everybody, he's putting the streets on notice now. Look, I'm not desperate. I'll keep the guy. I'll add a voidable year to his contract and kick the money down the curb if that's what I got to do to make this work. Or do I got to cut him after June 1st? He's not going to rush this decision. And I think that also is intentional because that's going to show the teams, man, if I can't do this now and try to get these cheap deals on him now, I better come correct during the draft. So I think it's a very smart strategy, as you guys have been saying throughout. So I think keep the guy, make it work. That's my
Really?
I say make it work.
Okay.
So,
Make it work.
I like that, Rob. And I said that, I think it was last week. I said that don't be surprised if they keep him, especially now that, all right, so Logan Ryan is gone. And I understand one is a safety and one is a cornerback. I get that. I feel that there is still more quality football left in Bradbury than there is Logan Ryan.
Oh yeah.
And you hear all these reports. Well, this team is talking to the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Raiders.
It's all
But
noise.
you know what? There's been no move yet. All right.
It's all
So,
noise.
Rob, to your point, he's not rushing it. I like that. I like that a lot. Again, maybe he's got a price in mind that he wants. And if he doesn't get it, I said it last week, I would not at all be surprised if he keeps him. I would not at all be surprised. Steve?
I've come to your side more and more. I still think it's like 75% chance they're going to trade him. Obviously, the whisper talk the last 24 hours, especially, is heated up with Kansas City. We've all seen that on Twitter. So for everybody watching, listening, by the time you watch or listen to this, maybe he was traded already.
Yeah.
There is no restructuring because he was on his final year. But what he can do is tear up the contract essentially and just redo it as a 2-year or 3-year and give him a big bonus. And but I'll tell you this, I still want Sauce Gardner at 7, even if they keep him.
Oh, absolutely.
So can you imagine him, Adoree, and Sauce? Now you've gone from your secondary being good, but then Bradbury, well, he's 28 going on 29. It's, now you got them and you got 2 slot corners plus some flexibility because that 3rd round pick, that kid, that beast we got, Robinson, he played corner towards the end of the season because we had health issues with a couple guys. I mean, him, Darnay. So now you got a tremendous secondary for the next 24 months. And, they can always trade Bradbury at that point if they want or whatever, but now we have a young kid behind him. And then it's just a question of filling out the front 7. I mean, man, woo! People won't even remember how to spell Logan Ryan's name after that.
So, Steve, you lead me into a question, and then we'll wrap up after this, okay, guys? But so Jabril Peppers signed with New England today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love Jabril.
Good for him.
I agree. Didn't expect him back. I honestly didn't. But look, he put it all. He left it all on the field when he played here.
Loved him.
There no bad words. Wish him well.
Jersey boy.
Yes, used to follow him at Paramus Catholic, as a matter of fact. But so my question is this: do you think that move or that vacancy now? And I understand you got McKinney. Do you think now Kyle Hamilton comes into play in the first round?
Rob, what do you think?
100%. You can't rule out Kyle Hamilton. I mean, he's the best overall, the highest graded, one of the top graded players in this year's draft. I don't think you can rule him out by any stretch of the imagination, depending on how things fall. Especially if Ekwonu and Neal are hypothetically, say there is no quarterback, friends. They're gone by 4, and Sauce is gone. What do you do? I mean, I think you've got to consider it. Absolutely.
Steve?
And Wink will figure out a way to use them.
So he had a terrible
value-wise, maybe not, but
he had a terrible combine, but who cares? Look at the tape. I mean, this is the example of when you got to stop watching the combine and just say, man, look what this guy put on tape.
To the combine.
At Notre Dame, against the highest level, top competition, the tape don't lie. The problem for me is, we talked about this earlier, maybe 3, 4, 5 episodes ago. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did a whole study where I talked about the evolution of the safety, the strong safety, and how I was wrong, and how there's all these guys, there was, I think it was Eric Turner in the Browns in early 1990s and there was one other example of what's his name in Kansas City who was taken very high in the draft. Thank you. But other than that, there's never been a safety taken in the top 5, except those 2 guys. And safety is not a position of value. You don't take in the top 10. And I said, but you know what? Derwin James, the kid in Minnesota, like there were all these examples of safeties now that are being used differently, and that they've modified the position in such a way that it's a chess piece, and it brings tremendous value, especially in a system like Wink, where he likes to bring pressure and you don't know where the pressure is coming from. So look, I think, but at the end of the day, you can still, maybe he won't be Kyle Hamilton, but you can get a safety in the 2nd or 3rd round. And this is a pretty good draft for safeties. It's not, oh my gosh, I mean, there's a fall off, but there's some safeties in the 2nd or 3rd, or even in the 4th round, maybe, but, and maybe they'll take a year or 2 to develop, but top tier corners just don't fall off trees. Man, I would struggle between the 2. I really would.
So my thinking on that is this. I think the Giants' plan right now is Neil Aquanu, whichever one, and Gardner. That's what I think the Giants' plan is. At first, I was saying they're going to go offensive line first 2 picks. I don't see that now, especially with some of the moves they made. So I think they're going to address the offensive line, and then they're going to give Wink some players. I think they want Gardner. If for some reason Gardner's not there, I agree. I don't see them trading out. I think they're going to use the pick.
Let's talk about it. Carolina. So the Giants take a tackle at 5. Carolina's picking at 6. There's only 2 things they'll do.
Right? That seems to be the talk of the town. Is
Carolina needs a tackle or a quarterback.
Right.
They got to do one of the 2.
Right.
So then you have us at 7. You know, we should have our pick.
But what do the Jets do at 4? Do they go Stingley? Do they go Sauce?
So the Jets in Houston at 3 and 4 are the wild cards.
So there's a lot that comes into. That's why I think if Gardner's gone, I could actually, especially now with Peppers gone, I could see Wink saying, "Give me Hamilton." My concerns about him is that, is he a linebacker? Was he a safety?
Right.
He almost reminds me of Isaiah Simmons. And
he's a lot lighter.
He's a lot lighter. But my point is,
18 pounds lighter.
Where does he play? So do I think Wink can utilize him? Yeah, but man, I still don't think Jabril Peppers leaving makes Hamilton the pick. I do not.
That's a tough one.
I just think they love Gardner. I think they love Sauce.
Yeah, for the lockdown.
Yes,
just the lockdown.
He's a different type of cat.
It opens up your defense to so many different opportunities.
He's not afraid to tackle. I think Wink loves him. I think he's drooling.
Yes. And he's built a certain way physically, and he's built a certain way from the neck up. I've been watching a lot of other podcasts and some interviews where they talk about what it was like at the combine and talk to him. And he's a different kind of cat. Like he's the prototypical cocky, but the cocky that you like. He's like, yeah, they're not scoring a touchdown on me.
Confident.
Yeah. But not like a cornball. I mean, he's
and he backs it up.
Yeah, man.
Oof, that would be tough unless the Jets snag him up. I mean, because that's everybody's mocking out Hamilton to the Jets. I see. I don't know,
but they were burned once before
with Jamal Adams.
That's right. So I don't see them taking a safety again. Been there, done that. I think there's a very small chance they take a tackle. I think it's going to cross their mind because Becton's not always healthy, and the kid that they got at left tackle, the talk is they're going to move him to right tackle, but and he's good, but so I think it's going to cross their mind. There's a 20% chance. One of my best friends is a Jets fan, and I think they might go for edge. You got Kayvon Thibodeau there. You got, it's going to be crazy, guys.
Oh, it's going to be so interesting. It really is. Well, Rob, we really enjoyed having you tonight. Great questions, great insight. We really appreciate you coming on with us. We really appreciate all the support. We appreciate you following us. You know, really, just thank you. Thank you for everything. Steve, and any closing thoughts?
Same here, man. You really brought it today. You're a true Giant fan. True Giant fans are passionate. They're smart. They're educated. They know football, and you brought all of that. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on your show on the Giant Zone, and I wish you guys the best. This was a fun opportunity, and you guys are going to go very, very far.
We appreciate that, brother. And everybody, look, we're getting ready to wrap up, and we thank you all for your support. Please keep watching and subscribing and downloading and giving us the 5-star ratings. And just to let you know that we're doing a show again this Thursday with Hefe and Glass Half Full from the New York Revival. So we got a really exciting show coming up Thursday. And now through the draft, we're going to be doing 2 shows a week. So we're really going to step it up and get into this more. So please keep watching. We hope you're enjoying. And thank you all for the support and the kind words. We really appreciate all of you. So take care. We'll see you guys all Thursday night. Guys, take care. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.